I found out about the $12,000 dog party through an Instagram post. Not a phone call. Not a text. Not an invitation. Just a photo of my parents' golden retriever, Max, wearing a custom tuxedo while standing in front of an ice sculpture shaped like a bone. A bone. A bone made of ice worth more than my monthly rent. Caption read, "Happiest 5th birthday to our sweet baby boy. Nothing but the best for our little prince." And then the next slide. The one that made my stomach twist into a tight knot. A neatly wrapped present with a gold bow. A tag that read, "To Max from Mom and Dad. $12,000 well spent. $12,000. On a dog. On a party. On a celebration for a creature who once ate a sock and nearly died." I stared at my phone for a long minute, feeling something unfamiliar wash through me. Not jealousy. Not confusion. Not disbelief. But something sharper. Something raw. A pain that had lived quietly inside me for years and suddenly decided it didn't want to be quiet anymore. 'Cause that same week, 3 days earlier to be exact, my birthday had passed. And my parents had sent me a $20 gift card. Not even to a place I liked. To a store 20 miles away that I didn't even shop at. No message. No call. Just, "Happy birthday, kiddo." Kiddo. I was 28. An adult. A daughter who never got a real celebration. A daughter who learned early that in our house, money wasn't spent based on need. Or fairness. Or love. It was spent based on visibility. And I had never been visible. My brother, on the other hand, he was practically glowing in the dog party photos. Arms spread wide. Ring light reflecting in his eyes. Laughing like this whole thing wasn't insane. He was the golden child. The adored one. The one my parents built their identity around. And me? Well, I existed. Quietly. Efficiently. Conveniently. Until now. I scrolled through the pictures again. The catered dog-friendly steak bites, the custom balloon arch, the DJ playing paw mixes, the pet photographer, the limousine they rented to bring Max to the venue. My parents never rented a limo for me. They barely drove me to school on time. But for Max? Red carpet. Champagne for the guests. Gift bags that probably cost more than my entire childhood combined. My phone buzzed. A text from my mom. "Did you get the gift card? Hope you enjoy. Love you. Love you." 2 words that felt more like an autosignature than a sentiment, especially when paired with a $20 reminder of how little I mattered. I typed a reply. Paused. Deleted it. 'Cause something inside me felt different this time. The script had changed. And I wasn't going to play my part anymore. My roommate, Tasha, walked into the kitchen, saw my expression, and raised an eyebrow. "You okay? You look like someone kicked your emotional support cactus." I slid my phone across the counter. She picked it up. Prolled. Stopped. "Is this a dog birthday party?" "Yes." "Is that an ice sculpture shaped like a bone?" "Yes." She blinked. "Is this your parents?" "Yes." She stared at the screen a few seconds longer. Then she whispered, "What the hell?" "Exactly. What the hell?" "What did they get you for your birthday?" she asked. "A $20 gift card." Tasha froze. $20. "Yes. And how much was this dog wedding? Funeral? Coronation? Party," I corrected flatly. "And $12,000. She sat down slowly. "Girl," she whispered, "we need to unpack this." But I didn't want to unpack it. Not emotionally. Not logically. Not psychologically. Not at all. I wanted to ignore it the way I ignored every slight, every oversight, every dismissal my entire life. But my heart wasn't cooperating today. Today it wanted to feel something. Tasha leaned forward. Are you going to say something to them? I shook my head. What's the point? They won't understand. They'll say I'm making a big deal out of nothing. Is it nothing? She asked softly. I looked at the dog wearing a bow tie made of Swarovski crystals. No, I said. It's not nothing. My phone buzzed again. This time from my brother, Ethan. You should have come today. Everyone asked about you. Max missed you. Max missed me. Not, I missed you. Not, happy birthday, by the way. Just the dog. Always the dog. Always something else more important than me. I set my phone face down. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't swallow the hurt. I didn't laugh it off. I didn't tell myself it wasn't worth mentioning. I didn't shrink. I didn't disappear. Not this time. 'Cause somewhere deep inside, a truth finally rose to the surface. A truth I had been avoiding for years. If a family can spend $12,000 on a dog's birthday but cannot value their daughter, maybe she needs a new family. And for the first time ever, I allowed myself to imagine what walking away might look like. That night, sleep felt like a stranger camping outside my window. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the glow from my phone lighting up the room every few minutes as more notifications trickled in. More photos. More videos. More proof that I had never really belonged in that family. My parents smiling with Max in their arms. My brother holding a champagne flute, toasting to 5 years of loving our fur baby more than life itself. Guests laughing, dogs running around in party hats, a massive cake shaped like a doghouse with Max written in gold letters. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Not because of the dog. He loved Max. He was the only being in that house who ever greeted me with joy. The only one who didn't compare me to Ethan. The only one who didn't measure my worth in achievements or usefulness. No, it wasn't about him. It was about what $12,000 said out loud without a single word. It said, we are capable of effort. It said, we are capable of planning. It said, we are capable of going all out for what we value. And for 28 years, none of that had ever been spent on me. I rolled onto my side and grabbed my phone again. Then the old text thread with my mom. Prolled. Happy birthday, honey. We'll celebrate properly next time you're home. Sorry we missed your call, things are crazy here. You know we love you. The words repeated like a broken song. Always busy. Always distracted. Always next time. There were more dog photos than photos of me in that chat. More updates about Max's vet appointments than about how I was doing. More heart emojis for a golden retriever than I had ever received for a promotion or a milestone. I clicked on my dad's thread. Even emptier. Shorter replies. Transactional. Proud of you. Keep working hard. You know how it is. I tossed the phone on the nightstand and threw an arm over my eyes. But the memories wouldn't stop. The time I turned 16 and asked if I could invite some friends over for a small party. Mom said no, the house was a mess, maybe next year. We ordered takeout and watched TV in silence while they scrolled through their phones. A week later, they threw a puppy party because Max had been with the family for 1 year. There were balloons. There were treats. There was cake. For the dog. The year I graduated college. My name was called. I walked across the stage. Looked up at the stands where families screamed and waved. My parents clapped politely. Ethan held up a sign that said Geo Max as a joke because they forgot to print one for me. We went to dinner afterward. They spent the first half of the meal talking about how hard it had been to leave Max alone for so long. They spent the second half scrolling through photos the dog sitter sent. The time I got my first real job in another city and told them I would be moving out. They said, That's great, but who's going to help walk Max when we're away? Little things. Big things. Hundreds of small cuts that eventually turned into one giant scar. Around 2 in the morning, my phone buzzed again. A new notification. I almost ignored it. But then I saw the name. Ethan. This time it wasn't a photo. It was a voice note. I hesitated, then pressed play. Hey, his voice came through, slurred slightly, probably from too much champagne. So, you should have been here tonight. I know you're all independent now, whatever. But Mom kept asking where you were. She got weird when I said you were working. You know how she gets. Anyway, it was fun. You missed a lot. Max looked so happy. And I think they sent you something, right? The gift card? That was from all of us. So don't be mad, okay? We're family. We're family. Those 2 words tasted sour. I replayed the voice note twice, letting every tiny detail sink in. The way he said independent like it was an insult. The way he said, from all of us, like a $20 gesture made up for a lifetime of imbalance. The way he told me not to be mad without ever considering that maybe, just maybe, I had a right to be. I finally understood something in that moment. In our family, love was loud when it came to dogs and appearances, and quiet, almost silent, when it came to me. The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at a chipped mug of coffee while Tasha scrolled on her phone. You look like you fought with your entire bloodline in your sleep, she said. Kind of did, I muttered. I slid my phone toward her again. This time, I let her listen to Ethan's voice note. She didn't interrupt. Didn't make a joke. Didn't minimize. When it ended, she set the phone down slowly. Wow, she said quietly. He really said from all of us like that $20 covered the emotional debt. I laughed weakly. A $12,000 dog party, I said. And a $20 gift card for me. I'm not even upset about the money. I'm upset about what it represents. Tasha nodded. Yeah. It represents that in their heads, you're the side character in their movie. Background cast. Non essential. I swallowed around the lump in my throat. It's always been like this, I said. And I kept telling myself it would change. That one day they'd wake up and see me. That they'd realize I exist. That I matter. That I'm also their kid. And now? She asked. And now I'm starting to think they'll never see me, I replied. Because they don't want to. The words came out without hesitation. Like my mouth was finally brave enough to say what my heart had known for years. Tasha leaned forward, resting her elbows on the table. So, what are you going to do? Just a simple question. But it landed heavy. What was I going to do? Laugh it off like always? Tell myself it wasn't worth ruining the peace? Send a polite thanks for the gift card text and move on? I took a slow sip of coffee. Tasted bitter. Like something that had been burned. Like something left on the heat too long. I don't know yet, I said. But for the first time, I don't want to just swallow it. She watched me for a moment. Then she said something that changed everything. You know, you're allowed to leave a table where respect isn't being served. The sentence sank into my bones like it had been waiting there all along, searching for a place to land. You sound like one of those random TikTok wisdom people, I muttered. She snorted. Yeah, but I'm cheaper and live in. We both laughed. But under the laughter, something solidified. An idea. Possibility. A door. I wasn't a kid trapped in that house anymore. I wasn't financially dependent on them. I wasn't begging for rides or help or permission. I had my own life. My own job. My own rent. My own keys. The only thing keeping me tied to them was habit. And fear. And the small, wounded part of me that still hoped they'd change. But they weren't changing. They didn't have to. 'Cause I kept staying. Maybe the answer wasn't to teach them my worth. Maybe the answer was to live somewhere my worth didn't need proof. For years, I told myself that walking away from your family was the worst thing you could do. But suddenly, it didn't seem so dramatic. Seemed logical, healthy, necessary. I grabbed my phone, opened the message thread with my parents, stared at the blank field where I was supposed to type "thank you." Instead, my fingers typed something else. "We need to talk." I stared at the words for a few seconds. Then I hit send. This time, I wasn't going to be quiet. And that was the first day my revenge didn't look like an explosion. It looked like the beginning of a conversation. And more than anything, it looked like the beginning of my emotional departure. They replied faster than I expected. Too fast. Like they'd been waiting for something to distract them from the afterglow of the dog party. My mom's text popped up first. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Sweetheart. She only used that word when she sensed conflict and wanted to soften the edges before deflecting responsibility. Before I could respond, my dad followed up. "Everything okay?" "Busy day here." Busy. Course it was. They were probably still cleaning up balloons and leftover dog treats shaped like filet mignon. I took a deep breath and typed carefully. I saw the photos from Max's party. And I wanted to talk about my birthday. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Mom replied. "Oh, honey, that was just a little thing for Max. You know how much joy he brings to this house. A little thing. $12,000. A little thing." I felt my jaw tighten. "I got a $20 gift card," I typed. "I'm not upset about the amount. I'm upset about what it says." There was a pause long enough that I could picture them reading my message out loud to each other. Mom sighing. Dad rubbing his temples. That familiar choreography of dismissal. Dad finally responded. "You're reading too much into this." There it was. The phrase that had followed me my entire life. "You're too sensitive. You're overthinking. You always take things personally." I stared at the screen, my fingers hovering. Then I typed the truth I had never dared to send before. "I don't think I am. I think I've just been quiet for a long time." The typing bubble froze. Then Mom replied. "Why are you making this a competition?" Competition. As if I had entered a race I never signed up for. As if love were something you earned by outperforming a golden retriever. "I'm not," I wrote. "I'm trying to understand why there's always so much effort for everything else. And so little for me." My chest felt tight. Like every word was being pulled out through resistance. Dad's reply came next. "Max is part of the family." I stared at that sentence. Read it again. And again. "So am I," typed back. Another pause. Longer this time. Mom answered. "Of course you are. Don't be ridiculous." Ridiculous. That word stung more than I expected. "If I'm family," I continued, "why does it feel like I'm always last on the list?" Tasha watched me from across the room, pretending to scroll on her phone while clearly listening to every breath I took. "You okay?" she asked quietly. I nodded without looking up. Dad replied, "We've always trusted you to be strong." There it was again. Compliment that was actually a sentence. Strong meant invisible. Strong meant low maintenance. Strong meant no resources allocated. "I didn't ask to be strong," I typed. "I asked to be considered." The response came almost immediately. "Mom, you're being dramatic. This is turning into something it doesn't need to be." I laughed out loud. A short, sharp sound that startled even me. 'Cause of course it was dramatic now. Not when I was hurt quietly. Not when I swallowed disappointment year after year. Only now when I finally named it. This is exactly what I mean, I wrote. When I speak up, I'm dramatic. When I stay quiet, everything is fine. Typing dots stopped. Then nothing. Minutes passed. 10 of them. Then 15. Finally, a message appeared. From Ethan. Hey. Mom's upset. Dad too. You didn't have to make this a whole thing. It was just a dog party. Just a dog party. I closed my eyes. It wasn't just a dog party, I replied. It was the final example. Of what? He asked. Of me always being optional. There was no immediate reply. For once, he didn't know what to say. I set my phone down and leaned back in my chair. My hands were shaking. Not from fear. From adrenaline. I had crossed a line. Not with them. With myself. For the first time, I hadn't apologized for having feelings. I hadn't softened my words to protect their comfort. I hadn't twisted myself into a smaller version just to keep the peace. Tasha finally spoke. They're not used to you pushing back. I know, I said quietly. And? She asked. And they probably never will be. That realization hurt, but it also freed something in my chest. Because if they were never going to understand, then maybe my job wasn't to convince them. Maybe my job was to stop explaining myself to people who benefited from not listening. My phone buzzed one more time. Mom, we love you, but you need to calm down. This conversation isn't productive. I stared at the message, then typed my reply slowly. I'm calm. I'm just done pretending. I didn't wait for an answer. I turned my phone off. The silence that followed felt different from before. Not heavy. Not anxious. But clear. That night, as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling again, I felt something shift. The anger was still there. The sadness, too. But underneath it all was something new. Resolve. They had chosen how to spend their money. Over and over again. Loudly. Proudly. Now it was my turn to choose how to spend my energy. And for the first time, I knew exactly where I was going to stop spending it. The phone call came the next afternoon. Not a text. Not a calm follow-up. Call. Kind that signals escalation. I stared at my phone as it vibrated on the counter. Mom. Course it was Mom. I answered. She didn't return the greeting. Instead, she sighed loudly, like she'd been carrying the weight of the world all by herself. We need to talk, she said. We already are, I replied. There was a pause. Then her tone shifted. The calm before the storm voice I knew too well. I don't understand why you're doing this, she said. Doing what? Causing tension. Making everything uncomfortable. We were having such a nice week. A nice week. A week where my birthday was an afterthought and a dog was treated like royalty. I didn't cause this, I said. I pointed it out. She exhaled sharply. This is exactly what I mean. You're twisting things. Twisting. Another favorite word. I'm telling you how it made me feel, I said. And you're telling me I shouldn't feel that way. That's not fair, she snapped. We do so much for you. The words landed like a rehearsed line. So much, I repeated. Like what? Silence. A short one. Then she answered. We raised you. We paid for your food. Your school. Your clothes. I almost laughed. You're listing the basics, I said quietly. That's not generosity. That's parenting. Her voice rose. Don't talk to me like that. There it is, I said. The part where I'm disrespectful for not agreeing with you. She gasped, offended. I am your mother. And I am your daughter, I replied. Not an inconvenience. Not an afterthought. Not someone who gets whatever's left. She went quiet again, then switched strategies. I think you're just jealous, she said gently. Of course. Jealousy. The ultimate dismissal. I'm not jealous of the dog, I said. I'm hurt by you. That's ridiculous, she replied immediately. Max is family. And so am I said again. This time she didn't answer right away. Instead, she changed direction. Your father has been very stressed, she said. Your brother too. This conversation is upsetting everyone. Is that what you want? There it was. The guilt pivot. You're hurting us. You're breaking the family. You're selfish for speaking up. I didn't create this dynamic, I said. I just stopped pretending it wasn't there. She scoffed. You always do this. You hold on to things. You never let anything go. I closed my eyes, because now I could see it clearly. They weren't confused. They weren't unaware. They just didn't want to take responsibility. You know what I never let go of? I said calmly. Being treated like I mattered less. That's not true, she snapped. You've always been independent. You didn't need as much. I felt something in my chest finally snap into place. I didn't need less, I said. You just gave me less. The line hung in the air. Heavy. Undeniable. She didn't respond. Instead, I heard her breathing. Sharp. Controlled. Then she said something I will never forget. Well, if you feel that way, maybe you shouldn't come around for a while. There it was. The unspoken threat finally spoken. If you don't play along, you don't belong. I opened my eyes. My voice didn't shake. Maybe I won't, I said. She inhaled sharply. Are you serious? Yes. Another pause. Longer than all the others. Fine, she said coldly. If that's what you want. Call ended. No goodbye. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just a click. I stood there in the quiet kitchen, phone still pressed to my ear even though the line was dead. My heart pounded. My hands were steady. Tasha stepped in from the hallway. Let me guess, she said softly. They made themselves the victims. I nodded. And told you to stay away? Yeah. She crossed the room and hugged me. I didn't cry. Not yet. 'Cause something had shifted. Deep. Permanent. They didn't want a conversation. They wanted compliance. And I had just refused it. For the first time, the distance wasn't imagined. It was real. And somehow, despite the ache in my chest, it felt lighter than staying. That night, I blocked my parents' notifications. Not forever. Just enough to breathe. And as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling once more, I realized something terrifying and freeing. If walking away upset them more than ignoring me ever did, then walking away was probably exactly what I needed to do. The silence hit them harder than my words ever had. I didn't know that at first. I just knew that my phone stayed quiet in a way it never had before. No morning check-in texts from Mom. No passive-aggressive memes from Dad. No half-joking messages from Ethan telling me to lighten up. Nothing. First few days felt strange. Like walking around without a constant buzzing in my head. I woke up without bracing myself for disappointment. I went to work without that low-level anxiety of wondering if I'd missed something important. I laughed with Tasha in the kitchen without checking my phone every 5 minutes. It was peaceful. And that scared me. 'Cause peace shouldn't come from cutting off your family. At least, that's what I'd always been taught. Family was supposed to be the source of comfort, not the thing you needed comfort from. But the longer the silence stretched, the more I realized how much noise they'd been making in my life without ever really listening. On the 4th day, Ethan cracked first. Text came through late at night. Mom's been crying. Dad's pissed. You really didn't have to take it this far. I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the screen. There it was again. Not concern. Not curiosity. Just damage control. I didn't take it anywhere, I typed back. I stopped chasing. He replied almost immediately. That's not fair. They're your parents. And I'm their daughter, I wrote. The one who got a gift card while they planned a 5-star party for a dog. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then he sent a single line. You know Max means a lot to them. I laughed out loud. A short, humorless sound. Max meant a lot to them. I meant what? Convenience. Low maintenance. A role. I know, I replied. That's the problem. He didn't answer after that. The next sign came from an unexpected place. My Aunt Linda. My mom's sister. The one who always hugged me a second longer than necessary at family gatherings. The one who slipped me extra cash for coffee when my parents weren't looking. She called me that Sunday afternoon. I heard things are tense, she said gently. That's one way to put it, I replied. She sighed. They don't understand why you're upset. I know, I said. And I finally understand why. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said something I didn't expect. You know, when you were little, your mom used to say you were easy. That you didn't cry much. That you didn't ask for things. That you were happy with whatever you got. My chest tightened. She took that as a blessing, Linda continued. But some of us saw it as a warning sign. I swallowed hard. What kind of warning? That you learned very early not to expect too much, she said softly. The words hit me harder than any argument with my parents ever had. 'Cause they felt true. I'm not calling to take sides, Linda added quickly. I just wanted you to know you're not imagining things. After we hung up, I sat on my bed for a long time, staring at the wall. Memories surfaced uninvited. Little moments I'd brushed off as insignificant. Being praised for not needing help. Being told I was mature for my age. Being rewarded for staying out of the way. I had been trained to be grateful for scraps. Meanwhile, back at my parents' house, the absence of my compliance started causing friction. I found this out through bits and pieces that filtered back to me. Thin complaining that Mom was snapping at him over nothing. Dad grumbling that the house felt tense. Mom fussing over Max even more than usual, as if doubling down on the affection might fill the gap I'd left behind. Apparently, without me absorbing the emotional overflow, it had nowhere to go. One evening, Tasha came home with groceries and found me sitting on the couch, staring at the wall. You look like you're processing something big, she said. I think I am, I replied. What? That my role in that family wasn't just to be ignored, I said slowly. It was to stabilize everyone else. She frowned. What do you mean? I was the one who didn't complain. The one who didn't need much. The one they could rely on to be okay no matter what. As long as I stayed quiet, everything felt balanced. And now? She asked. And now that I'm not there, the imbalance is obvious. Tasha nodded slowly. That's what happens when the emotional shock absorber stops absorbing. I smiled weakly. Trust you to turn family trauma into a car metaphor. She grinned. I contain multitudes. That night, I did something I'd never done before. I wrote down a list. Not of grievances. Not of memories. But of boundaries. Things I would no longer accept. Conversations I would no longer entertain. Roles I would no longer play. I wrote until my hand cramped. And when I finished, I felt lighter. The next morning, I woke up to a message from my mom. The first one since the call. We need to talk. This isn't healthy. I read it twice. Then a third time. She was right about one thing. This wasn't healthy. But not in the way she meant. I typed back one sentence. We can talk when you're ready to listen. Then I put my phone down and went to make coffee. For the first time in my life, I wasn't rushing to fix things. I wasn't bending. I wasn't apologizing for existing. I was letting the silence do the work. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet truth settled in. The distance wasn't punishment. It was protection. The apology didn't come as words. Came as a package. I found it outside my apartment door on a Tuesday morning. A medium-sized box. Perfectly taped. My name written in my mom's familiar cursive. The kind she used when she wanted something to look thoughtful without actually being thoughtful. Inside was a designer scarf. Expensive. Soft. Still with the tag on. And tucked beneath it a small card. Thought of you. Hope this helps us move forward. Love, Mom. Move forward. Not I'm sorry. Not I hurt you. Not I was wrong. Just move forward. As if the past could be folded neatly like silk and placed back in the box. Tasha watched me read the card. She didn't say anything at first. Then she raised an eyebrow. Is that the emotional equivalent of throwing money at a fire? I nodded slowly. They're trying to buy peace, I said. Again. I wrapped the scarf around my hand, feeling the fabric. It was beautiful. And completely hollow. My phone buzzed almost on cue. Dad, did you get the package? I stared at the screen. Didn't answer right away. Let the silence stretch. Yes, I typed finally. Thank you. The reply came fast. Good. We just want things back to normal. Normal. The word made my chest tighten. Normal was being forgotten. Normal was being minimized. Normal was smiling through disappointment. I'm not going back to how things were, I replied. There was a pause. Then, we didn't mean anything by it. There it was. Intent over impact. Every time. You didn't have to mean it, I wrote. It still happened. Mom jumped into the thread. You're holding a grudge. No, itipat. I'm holding a boundary. They didn't respond right away. Instead, the next message came an hour later. From Ethan. They're really trying, he wrote. You should meet them halfway. I closed my eyes. Halfway. As if I hadn't been doing all the walking for decades. I've lived halfway my whole life, I replied. This time they can come to me. He sent back a single word. Stubborn. I laughed softly. Stubborn was what they called me when I didn't fold. That evening my mom called again. I almost didn't answer. But I did. Her voice sounded lighter. Artificially so. We were thinking, she said, maybe we all go to dinner this weekend. Somewhere nice. Our treat. A peace offering. With conditions. I'm not ready, I said. She sighed dramatically. Why are you dragging this out? 'Cause you never sat in it, I thought. 'Cause you never felt it. I'm not dragging anything, I replied. I'm processing. She scoffed. You're overthinking again. And there it was. The loop. Unbroken. Mom, I said slowly, do you understand why I'm hurt? She hesitated. Well, you felt overlooked. Felt. Past tense. As if it were temporary. No, ikurakta gently. I was overlooked. Silence. Then she said, we didn't know you wanted more. That sentence cracked something open in me. I didn't know I had to ask, I said. I thought being your daughter was enough. Her breath caught. Just for a second. Then she recovered. You've always been so capable, she said. We assumed you were fine. Assumed. Because it was easier. I wasn't fine, I said. I was quiet. Call ended shortly after that. Not angrily. Not warmly. Just unresolved. I folded the scarf carefully and placed it back in the box. Not to keep. Not to return. Just to remove it from the moment. That night I realized something important. They were willing to spend money to avoid discomfort, but they were not willing to sit in accountability. The dog party wasn't the exception. It was the pattern. They bought joy. They bought appearances. They bought silence. But they had never invested in understanding. And for the first time, I understood this wasn't about one gift card, or one birthday, or even one dog. It was about a lifetime of being told without words that I was optional. And I was done negotiating my worth. The decision didn't come with fireworks. No dramatic music. No slam dors. Just a quiet morning where I woke up and realized I couldn't keep living in reaction to them. I sat at the edge of my bed, sunlight cutting through the blinds, and asked myself a question I had avoided for years. If nothing ever changed, could I live like this forever? The answer came instantly. No. I made coffee and opened my laptop. Not to scroll. Not to distract myself. To plan. I started with practical things. Bills. Savings. My lease. Health insurance. The kind of adult math I was always good at. The kind of competence my parents loved to point at when it suited them. By noon I had a list. By 1 I had a plan. By 2 I felt something unfamiliar but solid settle into my chest. Agency. Tasha watched me from the doorway. "You're scary calm," she said. "I know," I replied. "That's how I know it's real." First boundary was simple. No more initiating contact. No more explaining. No more updates about my life that could be twisted or minimized. I muted the family group chat. Not blocked. Muted. A small but powerful difference. The second boundary was harder. Holidays. Birthdays. The emotional landmines I used to tiptoe through for their comfort. I opened my calendar and crossed out Thanksgiving. Then Christmas. Then my mom's birthday. Seeing the empty spaces made my throat tighten. But it also made me breathe easier. That evening, my dad called again. I let it ring. Then again. Then a text. "Can we just talk like adults?" I stared at the message. Adults. As if adulthood meant swallowing hurt quietly. I replied with one sentence. "I'm taking space. I'll reach out when I'm ready." 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. 10 minutes later, my mom sent a message. "This feels like punishment." I read it twice. Then typed back slowly. "It's not punishment. It's self-respect." No reply came after that. The next few weeks felt surreal. I expected panic. Regret. Loneliness so sharp it would send me running back. Instead, I felt steady. Work became easier without the constant emotional drain. I slept better. I laughed more. I stopped bracing myself every time my phone buzzed. Therapy helped. A lot. My therapist, Dr. Nguyen, listened quietly as I laid everything out. The dog party. The gift card. The patterns. When I finished, she said something that stuck. "Sometimes families confuse access with love." I nodded. "They think because they're related, they're entitled to me." "Exactly," she said. "And when you remove access, they call it cruelty." That reframed everything. One afternoon, I ran into an old family friend at the grocery store. She smiled brightly. "Your mom says you've been busy lately." Busy. Code word for non-compliant. "I've been focusing on myself," I said calmly. Her smile faltered for a second. "Oh," she said. "Well, family is everything." I smiled back. So is mental health. She didn't know what to say to that. A month passed. Then two. Finn reached out once. A short message. Things are weird here. I replied honestly. I'm sorry, but I can't fix that. He didn't respond. The longer I stayed away, the more I saw my childhood clearly. Not as isolated moments, but as a system. Praise when I was convenient. Silence when I needed support. Affection when it made them look good. And always an expectation that I would adapt. One night, sitting on my balcony with a glass of cheap wine, I thought about Max. The dog. The $12,000 party. It wasn't about him. Never was. It was about symbolism. About where effort went. About who was celebrated. And I finally understood something freeing. Their love had conditions. Mine didn't have to. I didn't need them to validate my hurt for it to be real. I didn't need an apology that would never come. I needed distance, consistency, and a life built on my own terms. As the city lights flickered below, I whispered a truth I was finally ready to own. Walking away wasn't abandonment. It was alignment. The first real consequence showed up quietly, not in a message to me, but in the cracks forming back at home. I found out through Ethan again. A late-night text that read, "Mom's losing it. No emojis. No jokes. Just that." I didn't reply right away. I didn't ask follow-up questions. I let the message sit, unread, while I finished washing dishes. 'Cause for once, their chaos wasn't my emergency. When I finally responded, it was simple. "What do you mean?" The reply came fast. "She's mad all the time. At Dad. At me. Even at Max. Nothing's ever right. Even at Max." That detail mattered. I leaned against the counter, phone warm in my hand, and felt a strange mix of sadness and vindication. Not joy. Never joy. Just clarity. Without me smoothing things over. Without me being the buffer. Without me absorbing disappointment quietly. Everything had started to wobble. Finn kept typing. "She keeps saying she doesn't understand what she did wrong. That you're being cruel. That this is tearing the family apart." I closed my eyes. That narrative again. I was the problem. I was the fracture. I was the one who broke things by naming them. "What do you think?" I typed back. There was a long pause. Long enough that I set the phone down and poured myself a glass of water. When I came back, his reply was waiting. "I don't know," he wrote. "I just know it's not peaceful anymore." Peace. The kind that only exists when one person carries all the discomfort. "I'm sorry it's uncomfortable," I replied. But it was never peaceful for me. He didn't answer after that. A week later, my Aunt Linda called again. Her voice sounded tired. "They're not doing well," she said gently. I figured. "Your mom keeps saying she doesn't recognize you anymore." I almost laughed. "She never did," I said quietly. Linda sighed. "She's spiraling. She's convinced you're trying to punish her." "I'm not," I said. "I'm just not showing up." "That's the same thing to her," Linda replied. I sat down on the couch, the familiar weight settling into my chest. "So what do they want?" "They want things to go back," she said. "The way they were." Pictured that life for a moment. Me shrinking. Me swallowing. Me smiling politely while feeling invisible. "I can't do that," I said. "I know," Linda said softly. "And I'm proud of you." Those 4 words hit me harder than anything my parents had said in years. 'Cause they were spoken without conditions. Without expectation. Without cost. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet and let myself feel it. The grief. The relief. The guilt that crept in uninvited. Because walking away doesn't erase love, it just forces it to exist at a distance. At work, something unexpected happened. I got nominated for a leadership program. My manager pulled me aside and said, "You've been focused, clear, grounded. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." I smiled. What I was doing was not being emotionally drained every day. My life began to expand in small, almost invisible ways. I made new friends. I joined a gym. I laughed without bracing for judgment. And yet, at night, sometimes the old ache returned. Not the desire to go back. Just the sadness that it had to be this way. One evening, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. I almost ignored it. But something told me not to. "Hi," the message read. "It's Mom." My chest tightened. She must have borrowed someone's phone. "I don't understand why you're doing this," she continued. "I gave you everything I could." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed the truth. "You gave me what you were willing to give, not what I needed." 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then a new message. "I'm hurting." So was I. But only one of us was expected to pretend otherwise. "I know," I replied. "And I hope you talk to someone about that." No response came after that. I set my phone down and stared out the window, watching headlights pass like slow-moving thoughts. For the first time, the imbalance was visible to everyone. Not because I screamed, but because I left. And the truth settled in quietly. They didn't miss me because they loved me better now. They missed me because the system no longer worked without me. That realization hurt, but it also confirmed I had made the right choice. The last confrontation didn't happen the way I imagined it would. There was no shouting, no slammed doors, no dramatic ultimatum delivered through clenched teeth. It happened on a Wednesday afternoon in a neutral place with neutral lighting and voices that were almost too calm. My dad asked to meet. Not at the house. Not at a restaurant they liked. At a cafe halfway between my apartment and their neighborhood. That alone told me something had shifted. I agreed. Not because I felt ready to reconcile, but because I was ready to stop wondering. They were already there when I arrived. Sitting side by side. My mom stirring a coffee she hadn't touched. My dad staring out the window like he was rehearsing lines. They looked older. Not dramatically. Just worn. Like people who had lost control of a narrative they were used to directing. "Hi," I said, taking the seat across from them. "Hi," Mom replied quickly. Too quickly. We sat in silence for a few seconds. Then Dad cleared his throat. "We don't understand why it had to get this far," he said. There it was. Not "we're sorry." Not "we hurt you." Just confusion that I didn't quietly accept my role. "I can explain," I said. "But I'm not here to convince you." Mom's lips pressed into a thin line. "What does that mean?" "It means," I continued calmly, "that whether you understand or not doesn't change what I need." She frowned. "So this is about needs now?" "Yes," I said. "It always was." Dad leaned forward. "You know we love you." I nodded. "I know you believe that." The distinction landed between us like a dropped plate. Mom's voice sharpened. "So what are you saying? That we're bad parents?" I took a breath. "I'm saying you were consistent parents, just not equally attentive ones." "That's not fair," she snapped. "We gave you freedom. You gave me distance," I replied. "There's a difference." The waiter came by, asked if we wanted anything. None of us answered. Dad rubbed his hands together. "We didn't think you needed as much," he said. "I needed parents," I replied. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Finally. But I didn't rush to comfort her. I didn't ask for a $12,000 party, I continued. I asked to matter. She shook her head. You're exaggerating. No, I said. I'm summarizing. That made her flinch. Dad tried again. We made mistakes. Every parent does. Yes, I agreed. But mistakes repeated over decades become patterns. Silence stretched. Cafe hummed around us. Life continuing as if this weren't a pivotal moment. Mom finally spoke. What do you want from us? Question was loaded. It always had been. I want honesty, I said. And accountability. And space. Space, she echoed. Yes, I said. I'm not cutting you off. But I'm also not going back. Dad's brow furrowed. So how does this work? I met his eyes. It works when you stop minimizing my feelings. When you stop rewriting history. When you stop expecting me to carry the emotional weight of the family. Mom laughed bitterly. You make it sound so clinical. I had to, I replied. Emotion never worked here. She looked away. I won't be coming to every holiday, I added. I won't be explaining my choices. And I won't be accepting gifts that replace apologies. Dad nodded slowly. Mom didn't. And if we can't do that? She asked quietly. Then this, I said gently, is as close as we can be. Her shoulders sagged. For the first time, she looked unsure. This feels like losing you, she whispered. I felt the familiar tug of guilt. The old instinct to fix it. To soften. To fold. But I didn't. It feels like finding myself, I said. We left soon after. No hugs. No closer speeches. Just an understanding. Inside, the air felt lighter. Not because everything was resolved, but because it was finally honest. As I walked back to my car, my phone buzzed. Text from Ethan. How did it go? I typed back one sentence. I told the truth. For the first time, that felt like enough. Life didn't collapse after that conversation. Didn't explode, Heather. It simply continued. And that, somehow, felt like the biggest surprise of all. The days that followed were quieter. Not the tense quiet I was used to, but a steady, breathable kind of silence. The kind where my phone wasn't a source of dread. The kind where my thoughts finally had room to exist without being interrupted by guilt. I stopped checking the family group chat altogether. Not out of spite. Out of disinterest. Felt strange at first, realizing how much of my attention had been trained to orbit around them. Like muscle memory slowly unlearning a bad habit. Work filled the space they left behind. Not as an escape. As a place where effort actually mattered. Where feedback was direct. Where praise wasn't conditional. One afternoon, my manager called me into her office. She smiled in that careful, professional way that usually meant news was coming. We've been watching your growth, she said. And we want to put you in charge of the new project. I nodded, trying to stay calm. Inside, something bloomed. Bride. Not the loud, performative kind my parents liked to show off. Quiet kind. The kind that didn't need witnesses. That night, I celebrated with Tasha. Takeout. Cheap wine. Laughter that came easily. You know, she said between bites, they really underestimated you. I smiled. They always did. Weeks passed. Then months. My parents reached out occasionally. Short messages. Neutral updates. Pictures of Max sleeping on the couch. I responded when I felt like it. Briefly. Politely. Without explaining myself. And something unexpected happened. The more space I took, the more respectful they became. Not warm. Not nurturing. But cautious. They asked instead of assumed. They paused instead of pushed. It wasn't love transformed. It was power redistributed. I noticed it the first time my mom asked, "Is it okay if I call?" Instead of just calling. I noticed it when my dad said, "Let me know if you're comfortable coming by," instead of telling me when to show up. They were learning new rules, not because they understood my pain, but because access now had limits. And that was enough. One evening, sitting alone on my balcony, I thought about the dog party again. The ice sculpture. The balloons. $12,000. It no longer hurt the same way. Felt distant. Like a symbol from another life. Because now I could see it clearly. The party wasn't proof that they loved the dog more than me. It was proof that they expressed love through spectacle. And I was never meant to be a spectacle. I didn't need fireworks to feel whole. I needed honesty, consistency, and the freedom to walk away when those weren't offered. I checked my bank account one night and realized something else. I was saving more money than I ever had before. Not because I was earning dramatically more, but because I wasn't spending emotional energy trying to earn approval. Therapy continued. In one session, Dr. Nguyen asked me, "What do you want now?" Question startled me. I had spent so long focused on what they wanted, what they expected, what would keep the peace. "I want a life that feels quiet," I said slowly. "Not empty. Just calm." She nodded. "That's not selfish." I knew that now. The final shift came unexpectedly. At a family gathering I chose to attend months later. Not out of obligation. Out of curiosity. I arrived late. Left early. Smiled when I wanted to. Stayed silent when I didn't. No one commented. No one challenged it. And in that moment I realized something profound. I had changed the dynamic without raising my voice. Without demanding understanding. Without asking permission. All I had done was stop accepting less. As I drove home that night, city lights blurring past, a calm certainty settled in my chest. I wasn't waiting anymore. Not for apologies. Not for validation. And not for them to become different people. I had already become someone else. There's a moment that comes after you stop fighting. Not surrender. Not defeat. Just the quiet after acceptance settles into your bones. I didn't notice it right away. It showed up in small things. In how I stopped rehearsing conversations in my head. In how my shoulders stayed relaxed when my phone buzzed. In how my laughter stopped sounding like it needed permission. One night, I was cleaning out an old box from my childhood bedroom that my aunt had dropped off. Photos. Report cards. Random keepsakes my parents never bothered to bring me when I moved out. I sat on the floor, surrounded by pieces of a life I barely remembered living. There I was at 8 years old, smiling too politely for my age. 13, standing slightly apart from the rest of the family. At 18, holding a graduation cap while everyone else looked at Ethan. I realized something then. I had been practicing invisibility long before I understood it. There was a birthday card from my parents dated years ago. Inside, my mom had written, "We're so proud of how easy you are." Easy. That word again. I folded the card carefully and put it back in the box. Not out of bitterness. Out of closure. 'Cause being easy had cost me everything. My voice. My needs. My right to take up space. I didn't hate my parents. That surprised me. I thought anger would be the final stage. But anger requires energy. And I was done giving them that. What I felt instead was clarity. They loved in the only way they knew how. Unevenly. Loudly for some. Quietly for others. And I had spent years trying to teach them a language they were never interested in learning. I stopped asking why didn't they? And started asking what do I need now? The answer wasn't dramatic. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't confrontation. It was consistency. Consistency in how I treated myself. Consistency in my boundaries. Consistency in choosing peace over proximity. Finn texted me one night. A simple message. I think I get it now. I stared at the screen for a long time, then replied honestly, I hope so. But I can't be your teacher anymore. He sent back a thumbs-up emoji. It was enough. My parents sent a holiday card that year. Neutral. Careful. Sign love, Mom and Dad. I placed it on the shelf without ceremony. No tears. No resentment. Just acceptance. And that's when I understood the final truth of all of it. The dog party wasn't the betrayal. The gift card wasn't the insult. The real wound had been the years I spent trying to earn something that should have been freely given. I no longer needed them to admit it. 'Cause I finally had. I had been neglected. And I had survived it. And survival had turned into something better. Autonomy. I stood up, brushed dust off my hands, and looked around my apartment. Not tiny. Not impressive. Just mine. And for the first time, that felt like more than enough. The last thing I did with that old box was close the lid. Not gently. Not angrily. Just decisively. Some stories don't need to be revisited once you've learned what they were trying to teach you. Months had passed since the dog party. Since the gift card. Since the moment I finally stopped pretending that crumbs were enough to feel full. Life didn't become perfect. Became honest. I stopped explaining myself to people who already decided who I was. I stopped hoping birthdays would suddenly matter. I stopped measuring love by how loudly it was displayed for others. Instead, I built something quieter. Stronger. I hosted my own birthday that year. Nothing extravagant. A few friends. Cake I actually liked. No cameras. No audience. Just people who showed up because they wanted to. Tasha raised her glass and said, "To choosing yourself." Everyone echoed it. And for the first time, I didn't feel awkward accepting it. My parents texted that day. Happy birthday. No gift card. No overcompensation. Just words. I replied with a simple thank you. And that was enough. 'Cause I finally understood something important. Not every family heals. Some just change shape. Mine became smaller. But clearer. Max is probably still living his best life. I hope he is. None of this was ever about him. It was about learning that love isn't proven by price tags or parties. It's proven by presence. By listening. By choosing someone even when it's inconvenient. They spent $12,000 on a dog's party. They sent me a $20 gift card. For a long time, that felt like proof that I didn't matter. Now it feels like proof that I stopped asking the wrong people for validation. 'Cause the moment I walked away emotionally, I gained something they could never give me. Peace. Self-respect. And a life that no longer required me to beg for a seat at the table. That wasn't revenge. That was freedom.